everyone, this is Gwendolyn. This video is going to be about today's new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. There's a lot of powerful things happening with this because it's eclipse season, and it's also, the eclipse is aspecting with a major interaction between Neptune and Saturn that's been going on for the past year since last November. So we've got three sort of gateways that are happening starting today. We've got this new moon in Virgo. It's a total solar eclipse. It's mostly viewable from Africa, but it's affecting all of us. And then also, on September 10th, we've got this sort of final alignment with Saturn and Neptune, which are almost polar opposites. I'll talk about that, why it feels so push-pull. And then the following week, on September 16th, we've got the full moon lunar eclipse. So it's a 2-week period that has three major things happening, and some of these are long-standing things. Eclipse seasons happen twice a year, usually in the spring and then the fall, and this is one of those. And then we usually get a solar eclipse and then a lunar eclipse a few weeks later. So I'll talk about each one, and I'll talk about what's going on with the Saturn-Neptune square and aspect, because it's very relevant. So the first thing that's happening is this new moon solar eclipse in Virgo, and we're also, by the way, in the very beginning of a Mercury retrograde in Virgo. So it really may feel for a lot of people that like the water is just sloshing all over the place, like there's no clear direction. It almost reminds me of like when you're underwater and you can't figure out which way is up. There's some of that feeling to what's going on, because Virgo is all about structure and order and definitions and details, plans, organization, all of that. And a solar eclipse will block out the sun, block out, what we're aware of in our consciousness, and it illuminates the shadow ring that's behind it. It kind of lets you see the shadow of what's behind things. So the shadow elements, things that are ready to be released. It also kind of illuminates realities that may have been hidden before. So if things, if you were under the impression that something was true and you're finding out now that it wasn't true, or illusions are breaking apart. And that's what's going on also with this Saturn versus Neptune stuff. The interesting push-pull dynamic between Saturn and Neptune is that Neptune likes to break down boundaries and dissolve boundaries and have everything be one, have everything be spiritual, everything be fantasy-based, everything be like unifying, no laws, no rules, no regulations, no countries, it's sort of like all is one. And that can be a very unifying spiritual, thing. But Saturn, on the other hand, wants to define boundaries. Saturn is about discipline, it's about structure. It's really similar to some Virgo themes, where it wants to create rules, it wants to create definitions, it wants to create order, it wants to create discipline. So where Saturn wants to define things and sort of give a master approach, a schedule, a routine, definitions, a map, Neptune is squaring with it and saying, no, I don't want things to have a map. I want to erase all the lines on the map. I want it to just all be one. So there's almost this push-pull dynamic between Saturn wants everything in black and white, and Neptune wants everything to just be, one spectrum of shades of gray. So Neptune has all this foggy, misty energy, and Saturn wants to like clear off the windshield and be like, okay, this is the line between left and right. And Neptune says, no, I want it to all be the same. We're all going in the same direction, or it's all one land. We don't need to chop it up into boundaries. So it can be very confusing with those things pushing and pulling in between one another. And there may have been a way since last November in which the spiritual world, represented by Neptune, that wants to unify everything, is trying to find a balance between the realities of this world, which is Saturn energy. So there may have been a real push-pull between the spiritual world and the world, the mundane world, or the world that a lot of people just call the real world. So trying to unify your spiritual principles with real world practical approaches is what the Saturn Neptune fight is all about, or that square. It's almost like a tug of war. and we're kind of in the middle trying to synthesize that. So that's what a lot of people are going through right now, is trying to figure out how do you take like a spiritual approach and bring it down to earth. Because right now Saturn's in Sagittarius, which represents beliefs, which represents higher learning, represents outer philosophies, and Neptune is in Pisces, is about looking within, finding the spiritual world within, and connecting to the all is one that is within. So there's this real balance between inner realities and outer realities. How do you synthesize those two? And actually, with this new moon in Virgo, eclipse, solar eclipse, and sun also in Virgo, it is aspecting this. It's forming a T-square with Neptune and Saturn and kind of illuminating that. And the degree that this new moon in Virgo solar eclipse is at is 9 degrees 21 minutes. And the Sabian symbol for 10 degrees Virgo is two heads looking out beyond the shadows. So it really even matches the archetypal symbology here, is that we have two heads looking out, the internal focused world and the external focused world. You know, Neptune in Pisces is very internal, spiritual based, and Saturn in Sagittarius is very like beliefs, higher learning, the outer world stuff, and how do we integrate that in a practical manner. So they're both looking out beyond the shadows. So it can actually be beneficial to see what needs to go, what was an illusion. I mean, in some ways, Neptune and Saturn are fighting about what's real. What is the real truth, the real reality? And is there a way, and this is sort of the question of this new moon solar eclipse, is there a way that we can integrate that polarity, even that paradox, and find some synthesis, some integration to say, yes, here is a roadmap. Here is definitions of where the lands are, the countries are. That's going to please Sagittarius, Saturn and Sagittarius. And at the same time say, no, it is all one land. Those boundaries aren't real. They're practical and they're useful, so we'll keep them. But in many ways, they're not real. So how to proceed with both of those views, both of those visions, and seeing what is shadow and seeing what is light. There's going to be something that comes up to be let go of. There's going to be, Saturn will break us out of illusions. Saturn will define things. And the Neptune in Pisces is forcing us to keep a spiritual sort of bird's eye view on things, while Saturn in Sag helps us navigate things. So it's like a weird push-pull. Again, I think that image of just being in water that's churning or tumbling and trying to navigate, daily functions and practicalities is what's going on. Understanding that it is just a charging river, or it is, you can't really define something that is living and changing daily, but you can make practical. I mean, that's what Neptune has, that bird's eye view, and says, go with the flow. The river's going to change. You just ride with it, and, it's a living thing, and it's all the same water. Whereas Saturn in Sagittarius says, well, we can define where those borders are. We can plan for curves ahead. We can see how fast the water's going, and we can actually navigate it better if we look at those details, if we look at that structure, order, principles, definitions. And so it's really finding that balance between the two of those that this new moon in Virgo solar eclipse is going to help us integrate those two. So if you've been feeling like you're on a teeter-totter, if you've been feeling like it's sort of like weebly wobbly, or that water's pushing you one way and then the other, it's almost like the tides are going in and out. There is that dynamic between Saturn and Neptune. We've got the sort of finality of that. Started in November last year, and we've got that final closure coming up on September 10th, right in between the new moon solar eclipse and the full moon lunar eclipse. So we may have an aha moment at September 10th. We may get some closure, we may get some insight, especially towards things that weren't in view before. So it's a real time, and also with the Mercury retrograde, it's a real time to slow things down and sort of just watch this movie for the next couple weeks in front of us. The universe is asking us to slow down and just watch the movie of what's playing out with this new moon in Virgo, total solar eclipse. What's up for review? What things are we seeing now that are shadows that we didn't realize before? And what can we let go of? And then what completes in terms of learning how to integrate practicalities with the spiritual world. Learning how to find a happy medium between black and white and shades of gray. Is there some way that all of those things can be integrated? And then finally, during the full moon, the lunar eclipse, that will play out. So my recommendation to everyone is just to slow down. Take this time over the next few weeks while we'll still be in Mercury retrograde until September 21st, 22nd, depending upon where you live. And just watch this movie play out. Look, it's sort of like someone's reading you a story, and there's insights to be gained from it. There's going to be realizations. There's going to be, you're going to see things in a way that you didn't see it before, so that you can let go of some things that weren't really, you couldn't see through the fog before, is what I'll say. So, without further ado on that, I'm going to go through each of the signs and talk about what this new moon in Virgo solar eclipse means for each sign. So for you, Virgo, it's especially potent because it's in your first house of identity and self, especially for any of you Virgos who were born at the 9th degree of Virgo. You may want to look that up, 9th or 10th degree. This is going to be affecting you especially so, but all Virgos, this is happening in your first house. You may be noticing with this solar eclipse things about yourself that you may want to let go of. There may be an old you that you are ready to let go of. Shed that skin. And there's a new you emerging with this new moon in Virgo in the house of identity and self. So again, it's right around this back to school time, it's like there's this new you developing, especially with this solar eclipse. It's like letting go of your shadow self is or even acknowledging it and integrating it, finding a way that shadow self can be sort of harnessed to serve the new you. Or it's almost like when you complete a class, you use the wisdom and the knowledge, you let go of that class, you stop attending it, but you integrate that knowledge that came from that last class into the new self that you are. So that's really how this is going to play out for you, Virgo. There's something that's completing. If you look back to November of last year, you can see maybe what some of those themes are, and that's going to be shedding after September 10th. But you will use some of that information, that knowledge, those wisdoms, those practicalities, lessons, to help form this new you that's happening. So that's for Virgo. For Libra, this new moon in Virgo, solar eclipse is happening in your 12th house of dreams, of the subconscious. This is really going to highlight any subconscious thoughts, feelings, beliefs that you may be carrying around with you. It might be a great time of illuminating what is false about what you carry around in your subconscious. So it's going to be it's basically giving you a chance to sort of block out consciousness and see that ring of the shadow, see sort of beyond the shadows of like, oh my gosh, this is something that I think. For some people it may be like, I'm not smart, or I'm not capable of this, or whatever it is for you that is a subconscious belief that you may be playing sort of silently in the background, Libra. This is going to be a good time over the next 2 weeks from today to the 16th to really see what it is in your subconscious that is an old tape that is worth sort of letting go of. And you may get more and more information about this from today, and then on the 10th, and then on the 16th when we get the full moon, the lunar eclipse. It's sort of just going to be like revealing a story to you, and it could be a time to shed that subconscious shadow. So that's what's going on for you, Libra. For Scorpio, this new moon solar eclipse is happening in your 11th house of community, of science, of humanity at large, of just basically like your social groups and the people, friends that you connect with. So for Scorpio, you may have some illumination about old ways that you used to that used to participate in your community that you may be able to let go of. For example, if you used to be a wallflower, you may want to participate more. If you used to like dominate all the social interactions, you may make room for someone else to share. So there's a look at the way that you have participated in community, in humanity, in social group endeavors, sort of like on a larger scale, or even just the way that you see the world may change here. You may see that, gosh, I have some negative thoughts or shadow thoughts towards the way I perceive humanity. That might be an opportunity here in the next few weeks to change that, if you so choose to. That's what like solar eclipses are about, is to see that ring of shadow that when we normally look at it, we see the light, but because it's eclipse, we get to see that sort of the shadow border of it. And like I'll say, just what's rough around the edges about something. So it's an opportunity to see, are there false shadows within science that you're seeing, or beliefs that you hold to be true? Is there some like fuzziness around the edges that you need to investigate, or that you hadn't acknowledged before? Or in your involvement with groups, with humanity, with friends, are there friends that you may need to let go of, that you felt obligated to hold on to because of how long you've been? Or is there a new way that you might want to participate in community? Are there new types of friends, new types of social groups that you want to involve yourself with? So for Sagittarius, this new moon solar eclipse is happening in your 10th house of career. So something regarding your career, your job, your reputation, your status is breaking apart. You're seeing any falsities that were there. If any of you had degrees that weren't fully completed, but you had said that you had, this will probably come up for you. Or any way that you had been participating in your career, your status, your reputation, it's going to be coming to light. The shadows around the edges are coming to light. Things that appear to be real, any illusions are being shattered. So it could be a good time to, over the next 2 weeks, look into whatever shadow stuff is coming up for you regarding career, whether it's you want to go in a different direction, or you need to like really revise what's happening in your career. It's a really good time for reviewing, revising, reassessing. It may even just be a good time, Sag, to make a list of what's working in your career and what's not working. What do you want to keep and what do you want to let go of? That's really feature for you, because you sort of have this lens right now where you can really see through the nonsense and really see what's real. So it's a good opportunity right now to like look at things, and then within the next 2 weeks, see how things have changed since last November. That's going to be, you might have some closure coming up September 10th regarding that. And then September 16th with the full moon in the full moon lunar eclipse, you're going to have the third chapter of the information that's coming to you for that. For Capricorn, this new moon solar eclipse is happening in your 9th house. So 9th house governs beliefs, spirituality, things that travel, things that we publish, basically things that are in the outer sphere, things that are shared among humanity, things that it's sort of like reaching for greater knowledge. It's about higher education. So if you have somewhere that you want to travel, or if you have ideas about philosophies or religion that you wanted to explore, this may actually provide you with some insight about any falsities that have kind of come in with any beliefs that you have. So, for example, if you have a certain religion that you subscribe to, you may be seeing like there's some rough things around the edges, like that you may love the whole of it, but that there's some parts of it that don't jibe for you or that seem rough. And that this new moon in Virgo may say, well, we might want to look over here and see if there's this another religion or another worldview, another philosophy that can complement this, that provides me with greater insight. Or if you have a solar eclipse, as you do here in your 9th house, it could be saying that you may have beliefs about travel that you didn't think that you could, that you see now maybe a false belief. Or it's just about questioning and seeing the shadow side about anything to do with beliefs, higher learning, or travel. So any of those, you may have some realizations over the next few weeks about any false beliefs that you've been holding about anything in those areas. For Aquarius, this is happening in your 8th house of, it's the 8th house of regeneration. Some people say the 8th house is like sex, death, and taxes. It's things that are taboo or hidden traditionally, secrets, other people's money. So there's going to be some realization, some awakening perhaps, some acknowledgement of seeing that there may be some shadow sides to what's going on in here. Some of you may want to look at like your sexual activity and see, are there any sort of shadow sides of that I want to let go of? Or is there any new area that I want to explore there? Are there any realizations about using other people's money that you see that even though it may be a gift or a blessing, that there's some residual shadow stuff surrounding it? The solar eclipse is going to be a good time to take a look at that. And it's also a good time where it'll be illuminated in terms of hidden information or things that were taboo. You will be able to see what's going on with this sort of behind the shadows 8th house stuff. So anything to do with sex, death, taxes, things that are taboo, things that are hidden, you may get some real insights there to break through and see things that you weren't normally able to see, Aquarius. For Pisces, this is happening, this new moon in Virgo, solar eclipse is happening in your 7th house of partnerships. So this could be romantic partnerships, this could be friends, it could be family members, it could also be like business partnerships. So it's just basically the house of other. And there have been a lot of planets in Virgo. So there's going to be something wrapping up for you around September 10th. We have Neptune in Pisces, which is your house, Pisces, and it's also Neptune rules Pisces, and that's been squaring off with Saturn over here in Sagittarius. And this new moon solar eclipse is triggering that. So it may be a time where you have to get practical, that's a Saturn word, that's a Virgo word, about how do you integrate your spirituality, your philosophy, your religious, your connection to all that is with how you interact with others on a regular basis. Is there something that is rough around the edges that is appearing? The solar eclipse will block out the light so that we can see the shadows around things. And there may be a way that you can integrate your beliefs as well as how to do things practically in a way that illuminates your friendships, your romantic partnerships. There may be a way that you approach partnership that you want to let go of, that may be an old self or an old skin that you want to shed. And this new moon in Virgo says, well, yeah, maybe if I get more this is a practical way that I can change this or start something new. So it's a good time to just kind of hold up a mirror to how do you interact, how do you present yourself in terms of relationships, and is there any old skin, any old way that you may want to get rid of, because this solar eclipse will help you illuminate any of the shadow stuff in that area. For Aries, this new moon solar eclipse in Virgo is happening in your 6th house of lifestyle, of routine, of day-to-day work. It's basically like our habits and our routines that this is happening in. So you may see and identify with this new moon in Virgo that you may not like your daily routine, you may not like your health habits, that's another thing that's ruled by 6th house. So the solar eclipse helps bring focus to the shadow around things. So you may say, I've got a good health regime except for these things around here, except this one habit that I do. You may have extra insight and say, oh my gosh, I always, get up in the middle of the night to have a snack or something. Whatever it is that is challenging for you in terms of health, routine, lifestyle, any shadow aspects there are going to be up for review, up for reconsideration, up for illumination, and seeing whether you may want to discard those and replace them with other daily routines, habits, things that have to do with your health, organization, that sort of thing. For Taurus, this new moon in Virgo solar eclipse is happening in your 5th house of true love, romance, children, and creativity, creative projects. So this is going to be a place where there may be some focus on seeing the rough edges around your partner and really having some clarity and some illumination about that. Things that you may like turn a blind eye to normally. You're going to have an opportunity to say, wow, they really do this, or my kids really do this. Whatever's kind of been hidden in the surface, it may come up for observation, because the full solar eclipse highlights the shadow around it. It's got that ring of fire aspect to it, so you can really see the edges and the shadow that is there, and you can see like the reality that is normally eclipsed by the sun. So, or in any creative projects that you may be doing, if there's a certain way that you usually present your creative projects, if that's something that you do, you may say, oh, this is something that I always do, and I see that this doesn't really help it. Like if you're great at producing things but horrible when it comes to the marketing of it, this full solar eclipse is going to help you see those shadow edges around what it is that is challenging for you. And the new moon in Virgo is very practical and says, okay, well, you could change it. You could do this, and this to change it. Or it might be like setting boundaries with a partner, your true love. That's true love energy there. Saying, I love you, but I need to set these boundaries. That's Virgo energy. We need a new way of talking to each other, a new approach. Or even like setting rules for your kids. That can be 5th house new moon in Virgo energy. New rules, new boundaries, new definitions, and seeing where the shadow side is. And it's also showing, for you as either a parent or a true love partner or a creator, it's showing you your shadow stuff too. So it's adjustments in all of those areas, Taurus. Or opportunity for adjustments, if you should so choose. It's just you're seeing through a clear lens the shadow side for those things. For Gemini, this new moon in Virgo full solar eclipse is happening in your 4th house of the home. So it's a real time, Gemini, for you to see through what's really going on in your home, or what's really going on in regards to your home. How do you feel about it? And you're going to feel more of that when we get the full moon, the lunar eclipse. With the solar eclipse, it's blocking out what's like sort of day-to-day usually going on, and you see the shadows around it. Like maybe you've been putting off your real feelings about where you want to live, or you know, that there's certain things that you've been tolerating about your home that you no longer want to tolerate. Maybe you want to fix the gate that's always squeaking, and that's just sort of like background noise. But this solar eclipse will highlight that. So anything to do with your home, whether it's physical structures, whether it's the people who live there, whether it's the location of your home, that's all highlighted for you, Gemini. And also fourth house has to do with parenting. So it may be shining a light on either you as a parent or who your parents are, and really seeing some truths, seeing some shadow stuff about either the way that you're presenting yourself as a parent or your parents, getting some insight about them. So it's all about home stuff and seeing, is there any shadow stuff about the home that you don't acknowledge on a day-to-day basis that you can get illumination about now? And is there any way that you want to implement rules, structures, order, that's new moon in Virgo energy, to stabilize that, to correct any of that? So for Cancer, this new moon in Virgo full solar eclipse is happening in your third house of communication. So this is really giving you an opportunity to look out any outdated, outmoded ways of communicating that you do. That's the solar eclipse will block out sort of like your day-to-day just default mode of operation and show you the shadow around it and say, okay, well maybe this is something that I've always done, but I'm ready to do something different, or I see how this casts shadow. I see how when I communicate in this way, it has a certain effect. And the new moon in Virgo gives you an opportunity to do things differently. Virgo actually has a lot to do with ruling language and communication as well. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So you may just want to use different words or a different tone or a different methodology. You know, if you always talk on the phone, maybe you want to talk in person, or whatever it is that has to do with communication, that you identify the shadows around it. It's giving you an opportunity to shift that, to cast off the old skin of how you communicated, identify problematic or issues, what I'll call shadow stuff, in regards to your communication, and set new rules, boundaries, discipline, order, Virgo stuff, to create a new mode of it for you, Cancer. That's something that's available to you now if you should so choose to do that. For Leo, this new moon in Virgo solar eclipse is happening in your second house of assets, possessions, things you own, money. So this could be showing you, you know, for Leos usually like the best of everything. And with the solar eclipse happening, it's going to highlight for you the shadow element of the things that you own, or your approach to money, or your assets, or your possessions. It's going to show you there's something around the edges that you may want to let go of. You may want to change. You may have an opportunity here with new moon in Virgo to set new rules about your possessions or assets. You may realize, oh, I loan things out too much. It always comes back to me banged up. I want to set some new rules about how I handle my possessions or assets or money, or have it, you know, if you invest it in a certain way, you may see, okay, I've actually been taking a loss for the past while. I want to reinvest it here. Anything, it's just a good time to review, reassess, reconsider. You'll see any ways that you have your assets, possessions, money, values, things you own. You'll see during this solar eclipse the shadows around the edges, and you'll be able to adjust those with new moon in Virgo, new rules, new approaches, to sort of fine-tune things. So that's your opportunity, Leo, for this new moon in Virgo solar eclipse. So that's my reading for everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Please slow down and take time to just process and reevaluate things during this Mercury retro in Virgo. We've got this new moon in Virgo today, solar eclipse. Then on the 10th, we've got the final square off with Neptune and Saturn that have kind of been battling it out since last November. You'll get some closure on that, whatever area that affected you most in. And then on the 16th, we'll get the full moon lunar eclipse, and that will give even more information. So take some time over the next few weeks to just let it be like a movie that plays out, and you get greater illumination and insights as well as closure about what's going on. Sometimes it's just good to step back and review things instead of feeling like you always have to be active, deciding. It's a good time to just review so that you can go forward again after the Mercury retro closes and after these three major portals that you've been able to go through finish. So that's my reading for everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I just want to say thanks for watching. Yours in the stars.